You are listening to the Fish and Whips podcast, where every week we discuss all things Miami Marlins, pitching staff performance, and up-to-date news on the National League East Division. And here's your host, lifelong fan, Nick Alvarez.
And welcome back, Marlins fans, to another episode of the Fish and Whips podcast, hosted by yours truly, Nick Alvarez. We have quite a bit to go over today in regards to the Marlins offseason. I'm going to go over the Joey Wendell trade, plus some of the valuation of the Marlins moves made in the offseason so far. I bid adieu to the hot stove that happened before the lockout, and I will also have quite an emotional response in regarding the lockout that is going on right now in Major League Baseball. But first, I do want to go over the Joey Wendell trade on Monday night, I believe. Yeah, Monday night. The Marlins traded for Joey Wendell from the Tampa Bay Rays for Cameron Meisner, one of our top outfield prospects. Now, at first glance, my reaction was, man, we gave away Cameron Meisner, and I wasn't so sure about it. I was a little, you could say, about it. But when I really dug into the details of the trade and Joey Wendell as a player, I realized that the Marlins wanted to add more depth to their major league roster. With this, they had to give up some value for it. Now, you could say Cameron Meisner may come back in a year or two and bite us in the ass. That is all very possible. But I will take Joey Wendell as our super utility / backup infielder guy over guys like Isan Diaz any day. Any day. Okay? So, if you are okay with that as a Marlins fan, then you should be okay with this trade. Personally, I got so tired of seeing Isan Diaz in the lineup. I'm sure that I'm not the only one. I'm sure there are a bunch of Marlins fans who agree with me. And the fact of the matter is, Joey Wendell covers up some holes that the Marlins have in regards to their infield depth. It can cover for if BA gets hurt again and is out for more than 10 games. It can cover for Jazz Chisholm, who has had some soft tissue injuries in the past and has missed games for it. It can also cover for even a Miguel Rojas if he finds his way on the injured list. And even in the outfield, where Joey can play the outfield. It's not his ideal position, but he could play it pretty well. So, again, this is a win for the Marlins. I really believe that what they're trying to do is build up their MLB team by not sacrificing the future, but by giving away, well, let me rephrase that. Not giving away, but acquiring players that can help them right now over 2 or 3 years from now. if the prospects that the Marlins have aren't in their immediate future, meaning they won't be coming up this season or at the beginning of next year in 2023, then they are expendable. They are. I'm not saying that a lot of them will be traded because they don't want to sacrifice the entire farm system for winning. At least that's not the vibe I get from this front office. But I also know that the Major League organization, the Marlins organization, is tired of losing. I could tell they are. Derek Jeter is tired of losing. He's come from winning. All he did in his Major League career was win. 5 World Series championships. 7 World Series appearances. One of them lost to us, of course, the Marlins. But all he has done in his baseball career was win. So in reality, he wants to win. He always has. And anyone who has thought otherwise is frankly an idiot. He has never wavered from trying to win. Now, has some of his acquisitions worked out in regards to winning? No, they haven't. Have some of them worked? Yes. It comes and goes with the territory of being in the front office rather than being on the field. Remember, it's his first stint at being a CEO of a team. So it's not like he's done this before, where he's had a series of winning in the front office before coming over to the Marlins. He literally came over to the Marlins with his ownership group, funded by Bruce Sherman, and was given the keys to the franchise because of Derek Jeter's commitment to winning. But now he has to face a new challenge with the winning, which is doing it from a different perspective, doing it from off the field rather than on. So it's been a bit of a struggle for him at some times. Has it worked? Yes. Has it not worked? Yes. There have been gives and takes as far as being a CEO of a team. And that goes with any team. I mean, not every general manager in the history of baseball has had winning trades, winning signings across the board. It's not going to happen. You're not going to win every trade. You're not going to have every signing in free agency be a success. You're not going to have every draft pick be a success. So you have to roll with the punches. Being in the front office is like a marathon. You're not only planning for the now, you're also planning for the years ahead. And I feel that because they've seen their farm system grow over the past couple of years to be one of the tops in the majors, now they want their talent on the major league squad to resemble their winning ways in the farm system. They want that to transfer over. And I believe that with this offseason, or with these offseason acquisitions so far, that's what they're doing. I'm going to go over some of the evaluation of these Marlins moves so far, and I'm going to give my personal grade on them coming up next. The Fish and Whips podcast, hosted by Nick Alvarez, is brought to you by Anchor, the free and easy way to make a podcast, with creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor can also distribute your podcast for you so that it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. So if you're looking to start your own podcast, look no further and join Anchor today. The Miami Marlins have had a very aggressive approach in regards to this offseason. They've made a commitment to the fact that they want to add depth and they want to add offense to this roster. So I'm going to go over some of these moves, or pretty much all of the moves that the Marlins have made over the past, I would say, month and a half. So, one of the first free agent signings that the Marlins had was the acquisition of Louis Head. Regardless of what you think of his name, he seems to be a pretty reliable relief pitcher who can add more bullpen depth. There were times last season where the bullpen was quite below average in regards to pitchers like Anthony Bass being one of them. So, my grade on Louis Head's acquisition, I'm going to give it, I will say, a B-. Not to say that it's a bad acquisition. I'll just say it was decent. It was like, okay, not bad, but nothing that's going to knock your socks off. So, B-. The next acquisition or transaction, you can say, was extending Miguel Rojas for 2 years and $10 million at $5 million a year. This was probably one of the more important transactions of the offseason. It showed a commitment to the team's captain. It showed a commitment to the roster that's already on the payroll. And it also showed a commitment to the people on the outside looking in. That the Marlins want to build a culture of winning, but they also want to have that solid leadership core in the locker room. It also showed a commitment to the fans. That the fans love Miguel Rojas. They see his leadership on and off the field and in the community. And the fact that they are constantly, or he is constantly engaging with the fans on Twitter, as well as showing up on our podcasts, as well as showing up at certain events. He has been quite, you could just say, he's been a leader in the community. He has been fantastic. And the fact that the Marlins are keeping him for another couple of years really shows us that they are committed to having him in the locker room and that they trust him and his leadership. The next signing I want to go over, the first big splash that the Marlins made last week, was the signing of Avisaíl Garcia for 4 years and $53 million for an average of, I'll say, $12.5 million annually, roughly. So, with all that, he adds power, he adds run support, and he's also a solid defensive player. which checks a lot of boxes that the Marlins need. That was the first sign of the Marlins saying to their fan base, okay, we are talking to people. We want to commit to winning. We want to commit to adding more offense for our major league roster. So I will give that signing a B+. It was a very good signing. I won't give it an A because I think the Marlins can still do more. Will they do more? I can't say for sure. But I think they can do more than just signing one big bat. I think they need to go after another bat. So, B+ it is. The next transaction the Marlins made was extending Sandy Alcantara for 5 years and $56 million. This was the major league record for a contract extension for a team that had 3 more years of control of the player. Major league record. Now, regardless if you think Sandy got underpaid, which of course I think he did, but the fact of the matter is this. From his press conference announcing the signing, Sandy wants to be a Marlin. He wants to be in Miami. He wants to be here. He wants to provide winning back to the city of Miami. He wants to provide that winning culture that we had back in the early 2000s when we had quite a few consecutive seasons of winning records. And the community was jumping. Fans were coming to the games. People were interested. And we were competitive. And honestly, that's what all the fans should want, is for the team to be competitive, fight for the playoffs, make the playoffs, and make some noise in the playoffs if they make it there. So having the stalwart, our ace, backed for the next 5 years is a huge step in that. And also, we don't have to worry about extending him during the season and that becoming a controversy or a story. So the fact that they did this now and got it done now shows another commitment from the Marlins brass that they want to win. And they want to show the city of Miami that they want to win and that they want to have that culture going forward. So I'm going to give that an A+. Because extending your ace of the staff, someone who has pitched 200 plus innings and can pitch that year in and year out, deserves that kind of extension. The next transaction that really made some headlines was the acquisition of Jacob Stallings from the Pirates, the catcher Jacob Stallings, for Zach Thompson, Kyle Nicholas, and Connor Scott. This is a really big deal because the Marlins catching this past season and even the season before in 2020 was below average. It was abysmal. It wasn't good. We were ranked 29th in total WAR as far as our catchers went this past season. That's unacceptable. Do we need to be at the top? I would like to be, but I will settle for above average, top 10, top 15, middle of the pack. I'll settle for that. And with Jacob Stallings, who is the reigning 2021 Gold Glove winner, as far as catching goes, he provides security for the staff. He provides great fielding. He didn't allow a pass ball last year. His fielding WAR was 2.6, tops in the big leagues. He has proven that he is one of the top 5 catchers in the game right now. And that's a big deal for us. His offense has also improved this year and may continue to improve next year. But let's say he hits 250 to 260, hits 10 to 15 home runs, drives in 50 to 60 runs. That is excellent and provides his Gold Glove winning defense. That is a massive upgrade at the catching position. Massive. Even if, we have one of our flunkies doing backup catching behind him, like Alex Jackson, Nick Fortes, or whoever you want to throw back there. It doesn't matter, because if you have this guy catching for 130 plus games, fielding the way he does, and providing some offense every now and then, it's a win. I'm going to give that an A. Because it was something that the front office wanted to accomplish. They wanted to acquire a better catcher in the offseason, and with this trade, they did just that. The next acquisition, or transaction, you should say, is trading Jorge Alfaro for cash considerations before the non-tender deadline. I'm going to give that an A because it was time. Jorge Alfaro had plenty of chances with the organization to be the guy behind the plate, the stalwart. And multiple times, on multiple occasions, he failed to live up to the bill. Was he a class act on and off the field? Of course. I will never say anything bad about Jorge Alfaro, the person. But Jorge Alfaro, the player, was just not good enough. And it was time to let him go. And the fact that the Marlins got something for him instead of nothing is a win. And that makes that an A. It also doesn't prove that when they traded JT Realmuto to the Phillies for Jorge Alfaro and Sixto Sanchez, that trade was a failure. The only reason that trade will become a failure is if Sixto Sanchez doesn't live up to his potential regarding his pitching. The only way. So if Jorge Alfaro didn't fit the bill, and then Sixto Sanchez becomes a top 3 of the rotation starter, I'll call that trade a success. Without a doubt in my mind. No hesitation. That's a successful trade. The next acquisition the Marlins had was acquiring Joey Wendell, which I went over beforehand. I'm going to give that trade also a B+. The only reason why it is an A is because we had to give up a little bit of value in Cameron Meisner to the Rays, which could potentially bite us in the ass. It could. Meisner has the potential to be a really good center fielder in this league. He does. But he isn't there yet. He still needs another year or two. And at 23 to 24 years old, and the Marlins, I won't call them impatient, but I don't think they wanted to wait until he was 25 or 26 to fully develop. They didn't want another Lewis Brenson on their hands regarding age. So you need to give value to get value, and that's what the Marlins did. So I'll give that a B+. Another transaction the Marlins made was designating Lewis Brenson for assignment. Lewis Brenson was the headliner of the Marlins trade involving Christian Yelich back in December 2017 to the Milwaukee Brewers. Also, who was involved in that trade was Jordan Yamamoto, who is now in the New York Mets organization, Isan Diaz, who's still in the Marlins organization, and Monte Harrison, who's also still in the organization. That trade overall has been regarded as a failure because of the fact that we traded away an all-star right fielder on a rather team-friendly contract for 4 prospects, and none of them have hit the target as far as their potential. So yes, that one was a failure. I'll admit that. And I'll grade designating Lewis Brenson for assignment also an A, because it was time for him to go. We gave him countless chances to become the guy in center field or any outfield position, and he just wasn't cutting it. So it was time for him to go. Not every trade is going to be a win, like I said earlier. So the fact that the Marlins are willing to own the fact that this trade didn't work 4 years ago showed some guts by them. And it gives Lewis Brenson another opportunity somewhere else. So, with that, the overall team grade of the Marlins moves so far this offseason, I'm going to give them an A-. They have shown us that they are committed to the current roster with extending Miguel Rojas and Sandy Alcantara, and they're also aggressive in the offseason market with signing Avisail Garcia, trading for catcher Jacob Stallings, and trading for super utility player Joey Wendell. All of those seem like good trades and good acquisitions on paper. So I'll give them an A-. The way they get to an A is if they acquire another solid bat for their lineup, like a Kyle Schwarber or another solid corner outfielder via trade, or Cedric Mullins if they can somehow pull that off. I doubt they will, but anything is possible. And the Marlins have shown that they are committed to winning. So we'll see. But I do think that this front office and these acquisitions are pointing in the right direction for the franchise. I'm having a tough time in regards to this lockout by Major League Baseball. It's hard for me. Not just because things have come to a halt and it might risk the season starting on time and spring training starting on time and so on and so forth. But I love this game wholeheartedly. I love baseball. I love watching it. I love playing it. I love strategizing about it. I love going to the game with friends or with family and going over all of the different scenarios that are going on during the game. I love it. It's how my brain works. The fact that Major League Baseball and the Major League Players Association have two heads at the top of their respected organizations that do not care about their fans says a lot. Baseball is a generational game. It is passed on by a parent to the child, and then when that child becomes a parent or an uncle or an aunt, they pass it on to them. Because of this, there are less people passing on the love of baseball to the future. Baseball is declining. It is declining in our youth. And you know what the biggest headline is of this offseason so far? One word: lockout. That's the headline. The headline is not all these acquisitions, everything great that was going on with the hot stove. None of that matters because both sides are too selfish to compromise right now. Neither side wants to give or take. And the fact that the headline is lockout makes people disinterested in the game as a whole. It makes baseball irrelevant. Nothing's going on. Nothing can go on. No transactions can be made. No talks can be made. Not even promotions can be made about the game. Even Major League Baseball's corporate offices in New York don't have any players' ads on their building because of it. Both sides need to get the hell over themselves. Both sides. I'm not on either side of this. Both sides need to get over it, come to an agreement, and get the ball rolling again before more fans become disinterested. Before more fans realize that I don't really like this game. All these corporate people do is argue. All these people do is restrict us from watching the game that we love or used to love. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating for me. It's frustrating for all baseball fans out there. And baseball is going to lose fans over this. Baseball has had declining ratings in the World Series every year for the past few years. Every year. People are becoming less and less interested. You know why? Labor disputes. Because old heads in Major League Baseball don't want to change, don't want to adopt new ways, don't want to evolve their game, the game of baseball. And players on the other side don't want to have the players who are in the middle of the field, like the middle class, get the amount of money they're supposed to. All the Major League Players Association cares about is making sure the top guys get the top dollar. Like the Max Scherzers getting an astronomical $43 million salary for 3 years, which is like $130 million for 3 years. Astronomically stupid. No player in the Major League Baseball is worth that much. I don't care who it is. Even if it's Mike Trout, no player is worth that much. Of course, should players get their money if teams are are willing to pay that much? Sure. I have no objection to people getting their money on what they think they deserve. If someone's willing to pay you $43 million a year, go for it. Take the money. Do it. Don't say no because of their stupidity. Take their money. But at the same time, the Major League Baseball Players Association doesn't recognize worth. They don't. The only time they recognize worth is if you are a star or superstar. If you're one of those middle of the road guys who is good enough to be on a major league roster every year, or at least for halfway to 3/4 of a season, you're probably going to be shit out of luck in regards to getting paid. Because if once you hit that threshold of the prime of your career, if you haven't produced at an all-star level, most likely you're not going to get paid anything. that you think you're worth, even if you're consistently producing on the field. I'm so upset with this lockout because all of this bickering is childish. It really is. They need to get over themselves, meet at the table, compromise, and get baseball back rolling. Or else baseball 10, 15 years from now may be remembered as, oh, what's baseball? I've never heard of that.
Thanks for listening to the Fish and Whips podcast. For updates and timely commentary, follow the Fish and Whips podcast on Twitter at Fish N Whips. That's fish, the letter N, and the word whips. You can also follow your host, Nick Alvarez, on Twitter at NicksTake22. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.